Hey Monster Hunter fans, are you hoping for another amazing Monster Hunter game on Nintendo Switch at one point that isn't just a port of an older Monster Hunter game? Well, I don't know if that's going to happen. But first, let's talk about Monster Hunter Worlds. Co-director Konami Fujioka, I'm sure I totally butchered that name, was asked by Eurogamer about the possibility of porting Monster Hunter World, the game that is created for Western audiences for systems like PlayStation 4, over to Switch in a recent interview. He was pretty cagey about the question in general. Here's what he had to say about Monster Hunter Worlds and Monster Hunter in general on Switch. Unfortunately, we can't really say at this point. There's no room to say we're porting our current software to Nintendo hardware. It comes down to what we've already said. We want to deliver the perfectly adapted game for the hardware we have in mind. That was our design concept and our mission from the very beginning. Being able to adapt Monster Hunter for those systems. Adapting that to different hardware doesn't really work this time around. But in the future, thinking of something like the Switch, we'll think about how to adapt it for that platform. So there's a couple things to take away here. One, they're basically saying that, sorry, we never even considered Switch for Monster Hunter Worlds, and thus we are never bringing that game to Switch. And for the most part, this is either because this was their choice, or there might have been a backroom contract they can't talk about publicly that prevents it from coming to Switch, so they just have to say something. And as cocky as this may sound, it's just reality. They designed it for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC. Switch is not any of those platforms. It is less powerful, and they are unwilling to compromise the game for Switch. This is either the real truth behind it, which is really, it sucks, but it can be understandable. Or it's not the truth behind it, but it's just what they're going to put out there. What I want to focus on, though, more so than the fact that Monster Hunter World isn't coming to Switch, I don't think any of us really thought it was, we just kind of hoped, is the future of Monster Hunter. Now, Monster Hunter has been Nintendo exclusive now for a while, but they seem to be changing their tune. And I read this news off of Nintendo Everything, so I'm going to have a link to that in the description. But when they say, but in the future, thinking of something like the Switch, we'll think about how to adapt that for the platform. At first, I didn't think much of that. But then this really ironic name, this guy named Strawman commented on the post. And it says, the future of no Monster Hunter for Switch, you mean? Let's face it, if Monster Hunter World sells well and people want games further into this direction, then it's likely the Switch will fall out of the scope due to the hardware side of things. As this quote attests, we want to deliver the perfectly adapted game for the hardware we have in mind. We'll think about how to adapt it for the platform. Nice to know you're supportive, Capcom. And that is obviously throwing a little shade at Capcom, who has not exactly been friendly to the Switch up to this point. We had a recent report about that. But, man, I think we do legit have to worry about the future of Monster Hunter if Monster Hunter Worlds does well for Nintendo. Because if their excuse is true, if it rings true that it's all about adapting to the hardware, they're not going to make a lesser version of the game for Switch. Not just Monster Hunter Worlds, any other future game. If Monster Hunter Worlds sells well on PlayStation 4, PC, etc., they are going to have no reason to abandon that direction for Monster Hunter, even though we can argue that it has sold well for 3DS. But I think the best-selling Monster Hunter game was actually on PSP, if I remember. So maybe they're trying to get back to those sales numbers. What sucks is that a lot of this indicates that while they might consider the Switch platform in the future, if they're developing the game also for PlayStation 4 and PC or whatever, they're not going to bring that game to Switch. What I'm kind of getting out of these quotes, and I'm probably reading more into it than Fujioka intended me to read into it, is basically, if this game's successful, we're probably not going to be coming to Switch at all because we're going to keep designing games around that other hardware. for Switch to get a more traditional Monster Hunter game is going to just involve things like the fact they ported Double Cross. Maybe they'll port Monster Hunter 3 or whatever over to Switch. Like, they'll probably throw a bone to Switch because it's portable, but it sounds like the idea of getting full console versions of brand new Monster Hunter games on Switch is probably done unless, and this is the big unless part, Monster Hunter World tanks. If Monster Hunter World absolutely bombs on PlayStation 4 and bombs on a PC, yeah, they're gonna run with the tail between their legs back to Nintendo, because Nintendo, they're gonna be like, look, I guess we should have just kept this as a portable franchise, blah blah blah, and they'll run back to Nintendo, and yeah, so I mean, this is what sucks. Is as a Switch owner and as a Nintendo fan, part of me is hoping that Monster Hunter World just tanks, because that's how Monster Hunter is coming back to Nintendo. But see, that's also completely selfish, because I actually don't think Monster Hunter World looks bad. It's very, very different. It's not like a traditional Monster Hunter game. They obviously modernized it for the Western audience, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. You could argue that maybe the Monster Hunter formula, as popular as it's been, has gotten a little stale. It's kind of like with Pokemon. Some people with Pokemon think that's gotten stale and that the formula needed some mixing up, and that's kind of sort of happened over the years. Monster Hunter hasn't really changed a whole lot over the years in terms of its base systems. So maybe Monster Hunter World is what the series needs, and it is going to blow up. And the thing is, I'm torn, because one hand, I want it to tank so they come back to Nintendo. On the other hand, I shouldn't care. I think I don't even know if I wanted to tank. I want Capcom to change their attitude. I don't think there's any reason that Monster Hunter World can't be cut back a little bit in the visual department to bring it to Switch. I don't think that's true of anything. I think all games out there can make sacrifices to come out on Switch. The company behind it just has to want to do it. When you have companies like, Bethesda, dropping Skyrim in our laps, dropping Doom 2016 in our laps, and now dropping the Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, in our laps, hopefully early 2018, you have to start wondering that, yeah, these games can come to Switch. Companies just have to want to do it. Capcom doesn't want to do it, so I don't think I want Monster Hunter World to tank for selfish reasons. I don't even know if I want Monster Hunter World to sell well. What I want is Capcom to change their attitude about the Switch platform. And until that happens, I don't think it might not even matter what Monster Hunter World does, because they're just going to probably do everything they can to avoid Switch for whatever reason. Maybe, despite building up an audience with Nintendo, they just don't like money. I don't really know. A Monster Hunter Double Cross, I know, probably didn't sell as well as they hoped it would on Switch, but Switch with a smaller install base and it being a port of an older game. I mean, Monster Hunter 3 Try on like Wii U and Wii didn't necessarily, move gangbuster numbers either. But again, they haven't really ever put their best foot forward with a brand new game exclusive to, an HD platform for Nintendo. So, I don't know. Just my 2 cents. I'm not really a massive Monster Hunter gamer as is. I have played, I think, 2 of the games in the past, and I enjoyed it. It's a big time sink, so I never really fully invested, but I know there's a lot of Monster Hunter fans out there on Nintendo platforms that are probably going to feel like they're a little left out in the cold right now, and are really left in the dark without any guarantee that Monster Hunter is ever going to be on Switch again. Anyways, folks, I'm Nathaniel Ruffajans from Nintendo Prime, and if you like this video, you know what to do, and if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Would you like to see Monster Hunter return to Switch, or are you fine with it being the way it is right now with Worlds? Or World, I keep throwing an S on there, I know, I think it's just Monster Hunter World, not Worlds, but let me know what you think about all of this, and as always, folks, I will catch you in the next one.